Did you see something move out of the corner of your eye, or was it just your imagination? Did your bedroom curtains move because of a breeze outside? Is that thump you hear at night just the house settling? Or are there times when the unseen makes itself known, when those who have died return to their old haunts? Many creepy urban legends suggest that the dead are never truly gone and that monsters hide just out of sight. These stories say that there are things that eye can sometimes see, but the mind can't understand. Here are 10 such legends from all around the world. Who needs sleep anyway? Hi, my name is Alina. Welcome back to my channel. In Cape Town, South Africa, there's the famous Castle of Good Hope, the oldest colonial building in the country. This castle has a dark past filled with stories of slavery and torture, which has led to many urban legends. One story is about Governor Pieter Gisbert van Noodt, who was a cruel man. In the 1720s, he sentenced a group of soldiers to be hanged. Van Noodt didn't even bother to attend the execution. When the governor officers went to tell him that the soldiers had been hanged, they found Van Noodt dead in his chair with a look of horror on his face. The story says that the governor still roams the castle's corridors, cursed forever. There was also a female ghost known as the Lady in Grey who haunted the castle. But after a female skeleton was found during an excavation, sightings of the Lady in Grey have significantly decreased. Native Americans have many spooky legends. One of the scariest is about the so-called stick Indians. These creatures are tall, thin, and can run very fast. They can also mimic sounds and they whistle to communicate, which scares people who hear it. Some people also think they might be a type of Bigfoot. Stick Indians wander through the woods at night looking for victims to throw their special powder at. This powder, made from the remains of the dead, causes people to fall into a deep sleep. While the victims sleep, the stick Indians play pranks and sometimes kidnap their children and teenagers from villages to make them slaves. La Mala Hora is an evil spirit that roams quiet roads waiting to attack unsuspecting travelers. This dark spirit enjoys driving people insane. It also hypnotizes and paralyzes them and then attacks while they are weak. After suffocating its victims, La Mala Hora leaves them by the side of the road. People in New Mexico avoid talking about it, calling it simply an evil thing. They believe that if you see the spirit in the form of a woman, it's a sign of death. If you see her at crossroads, it means that you or someone close to you will likely die soon. A woman was driving alone on a deserted highway just after midnight when she saw a shadow at a crossroads. She hit the brakes and the shadow vanished, replaced by an old lady with red eyes and sharp teeth. The old lady tried to claw her way into the car, so the woman sped off. Shockingly, the creepy old lady kept up with the car running alongside it. The woman finally managed to outrun her and saw in a rearview mirror that the lady had grown as tall as a large tree. The next morning, the woman returned home and found police officers waiting for her. They told her that her husband had been murdered just after midnight the previous night. There's a spooky story from London about a train called the Dead Body Train. According to the legend, this train carried dead bodies through a tunnel between Whitechapel Tube Station and the Royal London Hospital. This supposedly happened in the early 1900s when London was facing a lot of poverty and disease. Because of how tough things were back then, some people think that the dead body train might have really existed. Whitechapel is also famous because of Jack the Ripper, and rumors about temporary morgues set up under the ticket hall don't help its reputation. The legend of the red ghost started in the late 1800s. In 1883, towards the end of the Apache Wars, two men left their wives at their Arizona ranch to check on their farm animals. While one woman went to a spring to get water, the other one stayed home with the kids. Suddenly, a loud, high-pitched scream was heard. The woman who was inside looked out of the window and saw a huge creature with red fur. It had a terrifying figure on its back, looking almost demonic. Scared, the woman locked herself and her children inside the house and waited for the two men to come back. The woman who had gone to get water never returned. Eventually, her body was found near the spring, trampled and lifeless. They also discovered big cloven hoofprints and pieces of red hair and fur. That's how the legend of the red ghost started. More people reported seeing the creature, including a rancher named Cyrus Hamblin. He said the beast was actually a camel with a skeleton tied to its back. Weeks later, some prospectors at the river saw a camel and started shooting at it. They missed, but as they watched it run away, they saw something fall off its back. When they checked, they were shocked to find a skull with hair still on it. 9 years later, another rancher shot the camel after finding it in his garden. When he looked at the camel's body, he found evidence that someone had once been strapped to its back. In many spaces, a meteor is considered to be just a rock from space. But in northern Australia, Aboriginal people think of it differently. They believe a meteor is actually the eye of an evil spirit. They think the spirit moves across the dark sky with long claws, searching for souls and targeting people who are close to dying. Namorrodor is a mythical creature known as a flying serpent. Over time, legends about it have been passed down. It can also transform into a kangaroo or a horse and makes sounds like the wind. To avoid encountering Namorrodor, never cook meat outside at night because its smell can attract it from the bushes. Namorrodor's favorite prey is unprotected babies. It attacks by tearing out their hearts and flying away with their bodies. In the late 1960s, a young nurse named Janet disappeared in Malaysia. Many people believed her disappearance, along with others, was connected to the construction of the Satok Bridge. People believed that stopping the construction on the bridge would upset territorial spirits. To avoid this, virgin girls were sacrificed by cutting off their heads. The heads were then placed into the bridge's pillars. When Janet's body was found without her head, people believed that she had been a sacrifice too. Her parents dressed her in red and buried her. Janet came back for revenge after her death. Dressed in a red burial outfit and shoes, she started showing up to surprise bikers on the outskirts of Kuching in Malaysia. She would ask for a ride, and once the biker gave her one, she would vanish at the end of the trip, leaving behind a foul, rotten stain on the seat. People also saw Janet's ghost on a ferry crossing the river. When the ferry reached the other side, she would disappear, and any money on the ferry would turn into leaves. Janet's ghost still scares the people of Kuching today. Ferry operators refuse to work after 10 p.m. and people avoid mentioning her name. In 2004, the Satok Bridge collapsed. The area called the Real Mary King's Close in Edinburgh was hit hard by the plague. People said that those who got the disease were left to die in the streets. By the 18th century, the area was deserted, with its buildings and homes left empty and shut down. Mary King's Close has been a hotspot for ghost hunters and psychics, all eager to connect with the ghosts from its dark past. In 1992, one psychic visited the close to make a documentary about supernatural events. She didn't find anything spooky enough, so she was about to leave. But then she stopped at a particular room. She felt a strong sense of fear and didn't want to go in. But she did, eventually, because a ghostly little girl asked her to. The girl introduced herself as Annie and said she died long ago from the plague. Annie was sad because her family had abandoned her and she had lost her doll. This little girl even tagged on Psychic's hand to show her presence. The psychic bought a Barbie doll for Annie and left it in the middle of the room. Since then, that single Barbie has turned into a big pile of toys and even some money left by tourists. A guide at the close shared his own story about Annie. He said that once, as he was living with a group of tourists, Annie threw a coin across the room. He also mentioned that some people have felt a small, invisible hand touching them. Korea is famous for its spooky urban legends. Many of them have inspired horror movies. One such story is about a Korean teenager. One night, after finishing her homework at the library, she came home late. She pressed the button for the 14th floor of her building and got into the elevator. As the doors were closing, a man ran up and managed to get in with her. He pressed the button for the 13th floor. She couldn't stop staring at a very handsome stranger. When he got off the 13th floor, he said, "See you," and she answered, "Yes, see you." Just before the elevator doors closed, she saw the man pull out a knife from his jacket and heard him shout, "Upstairs." He then ran towards the staircase opposite the elevator. Panicking, she tried to stop the elevator by pressing the buttons wildly, but she reached her floor quickly, and when the doors opened, she saw the maniac grinning right in front of her. Later, her body was found in the elevator. She had been stabbed to death. During Ghost Month in China, people share many urban legends and ghost stories as part of the tradition. One of the spookiest tales is about a girl known as Single Braid. She got her name because she had very long braided hair. The story goes that Single Braid tried to sneak into Hong Kong with her boyfriend. They took a train to the city, but she got scared when police officers started checking IDs on the train. Since she was an illegal immigrant, she decided to jump off the moving train. Unfortunately, her braid got stuck in a window frame as she jumped. This caused her hair to be ripped off her head along with the skin from her face. She managed to walk as far as a road now called Single Braid Road before she gave up and died. The next day, people found her lying in a pool of dried blood. Her boyfriend never came back to see what happened, and just went on with his life as she never existed. After that, people started seeing a ghostly girl in the area. One student had a particularly scary encounter. While walking down Single Braid Road, he saw a girl standing there with her back to him and her hair in a single braid. He called out to her to check if she was okay, but she didn't answer. When he touched her shoulder to get her attention, she turned around, and he was terrified to see that she had no face. Then she vanished right before his eyes. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!